And I'm going then to go ahead and move to our next agenda item, which is Executive Director's report, and turn it over to Executive Director Nevitt and Chief Communication Officer Sarah Nagowski.
Good morning. I will start, and then I'm going to give some of my time to our Chief Communications Officer, who is having some technical difficulties, so she's only on the phone, but I think she's still going to be able to give her report. I wanted to start by just, I've emailed you this, but I put it in my report, which by the way is on page 31. But I just wanted to start by welcoming Kevin Platchey. It's a bit of a funny welcome because Kevin has been our interim director of advancement for more than a year and a half, but he has accepted the permanent position of director of advancement. I've heard from many of you that I know that you agree with me that Kevin has done an exceptional job during his interim period. And what I really want to call out is that in addition to a long history of success with our CLE program, building relationships with sections, the other thing that happened this year is, when we immediately started responding to the pandemic, I think our first reaction, as probably most people's reaction, was safety of our volunteers, safety of our employees. We spent the first few weeks making a lot of decisions about what the office was going to look like, how people were going to work. And it was probably a couple weeks in that we thought, well, we should probably do something for the members and the public as well. And I asked Kevin if he could lead up that effort. And he worked with the external task force that immediate past President Majumdar created. And he also created an internal task force, which others here worked on. I believe Diana Singleton was a big part of that internal task force as well, really focusing on the public aspect. But Kevin just provided really exceptional leadership. And I think that some of the things that we did for the members and the public have been a model across the country. So with that, welcome, Kevin, and thank you for agreeing to stay on with us. Yay.
Nice to meet you, Kevin.
In less happy news, I'd say the thing that I really want to report on, this is not in my report, but I know I've emailed the board, and I sent a message to all 40,000 members yesterday that we have had a pretty serious cybersecurity incident. We discovered on Thursday that there was a malicious code introduced into our MyWisba website. It's one that targets credit card numbers that are entered into the site. We know the code was put there. We don't know whether the criminals who put it there were able to successfully access any credit card numbers. So our IT team is working very, very hard on trying to get the particulars. We wanted, out of an abundance of caution, to make all of our members aware of what was happening. And of course, once we determine if anyone was directly impacted, we will be contacting them directly with follow-up information. In addition to that, it has required us, again, out of an abundance of caution, to take down MyWisba temporarily, and we have to rebuild it. And it's not great timing because we're in the middle of licensing, and MyWisba is how people license. So it's quite a disruption. It also disrupts access to the CLE store, and also importantly, the free legal research tools that we provide to our members. Yesterday, Kevin and others were reaching out directly to the two legal research tools that we use, and they have both provided a workaround for how our members can continue to access those resources while we're rebuilding MyWisba. So that information also went out in the email yesterday. So we hope to have the site back up as early as Monday, as late as Wednesday, and we will continue to follow the steps that we need to make sure that everyone's protected and can access what they need. And then lastly, I just wanted to do yet another shout out to our admissions and bar exam teams. We have approximately 320 people registered for the February bar exam. And and we need to determine what that's going to look like. It would be extraordinarily difficult to hold that exam in person under the circumstances. Certainly, we can't put 320 people all in one place. We are considering a virtual exam. We are, considering multiple venues. So we're working through all that. And if you have questions, I'm sure Hinata would be happy to answer them. So I will pause there and see if there are any questions on what I've covered or what's in my report. And if not, then I'll turn it to Sarah. All right, Sarah, are you able?
I'm Can you hear me?
Yes.
I want to promise that I'm not in fuzzy slippers sitting in my bed. I actually came in to work to be extra prepared, and ironically enough, the internet's down. So I'm calling in. I can see you all, I promise. I wanted to follow up just quickly on something that Tara mentioned about our data incident, and Michael Cherry, who's always such a huge resource to us, just sent in some information from the ABA Journal that looks like it may be nationwide that law firms and bar groups are being targeted. So just something interesting as we keep investigating what's going on. I am here to talk to you about our fiscal year 20 last quarter survey that we run regularly. This has been something that we started 2 years ago, and the board has asked that rather than just putting the report in your materials, which you may or may not miss, just to flag it for you so that you know that it's there, because really the survey is meant to provide really useful feedback for WSBA leaders who are making decisions and seeing how we've been serving members. And so just to refresh your memory, we randomly select a significant sample of members to conduct a short survey with, questions about what is your perception, how are our CLEs, what does it look like, and then we post the reports. You can search WSBA surveys and you'll find it on our website. But again, I just wanted to show you, this is for fourth quarter, FY20. And just a few highlights that you can see. I think when I talked to our folks who had been actually on the calls doing a lot of this, I think what you see reflected is, especially for the third quarter for FY20, if you look at the grade spans across the year, you'll see they're pretty high universally. Also, I think we had a real recognition, especially in the third quarter, about some of the things that WSBA was really doing practically to support members in terms of CLE and the response task force, and really acting as a liaison for some of those advocacy, as we were trying to figure out what was going on in court. And for the fourth quarter, I think we were holding pretty strong in all of those elements. One thing that I wanted to flag that we heard from folks doing the calls was that not hardly anybody in the fourth quarter said, I don't know, about knowing ways to be involved with WSBAs. So the number was saying yes, they're actually hearing and experiencing ways that they can connect with their bar and to find those resources. There was also a lot of praise for the way that ODC handles disciplinary matters and the way that the organization was conducting its communication, especially in the pandemic. And so again, I think that was a reflection of some of what we've been doing to really synthesize and broadcast resources. And I also wanted to mention that some of the callers emphasized really liking and wanting the importance on practical matters in the current environment. So how to, the free CLEs in the magazine, the ethics columns, the practice management columns. And so I think all of that is really good data. And again, we'll be continuing to make those calls just to make sure that we're serving members. The back of the report, if we can scroll down, the back of the report, it's our outreach map, and so we would have a map of Washington, and it would show the places and CLEs that we've been kind of covering the state, how we're interacting with members. Obviously, this year has really been almost impossible to get out and about. So what we swapped out that graphic with was really a representation of how we instead really stepped up to provide CLE and resources to our members and get those out via our communication. So again, this looks a little different on the back than normal. It's our COVID edition of our outreach reporting. But if you can see that we had just remarkably high numbers of free CLEs and CLE programming and participants, and I think that really came through in our survey as well, that people were thankful for that. And so again, that was a big step up. A lot of that was in response to what we heard through the COVID-19 task force, and really hopefully useful tools for our members that will continue. So again, we are going to continue doing our surveying and our calling, and we will keep posting these so you can go back and look at the data. But I appreciate being able to show it and kind of represent it in person so it can be top of your mind as you're thinking about what the bar has done in the past quarter and how members have been responding. So, and I see we've got a highlight. Approximately 11,354 people attended CLEs virtually in the last quarter of the year, which is just, again, a remarkably high number. So there you go. If anybody has questions about this report in general or the survey in general, I'm happy to take them, or you can always give me a call. But this is something the Communications and Outreach Department does that we think it's really important, because we hear from many different people that we wouldn't hear from otherwise. And really, it's both a good way to get feedback and make a nice connection. I will mention that often when we're making the phone calls, and for instance, somebody might say, well, I'm an older lawyer and I'm looking at, the next stages in life. And I know, like, for instance, that call, they said, well, did you know we have a lot of resources, for transitioning your practice? Can I introduce you to our practice management advisor? And so there's a lot of nice connections that are made that way as well.
All right. Any questions for Sarah?
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right. Back to you, President Schiketti.